And anyone can do it. If you're listening to this, you are a leader in your life. No matter what, there's people involved in your life. And you can really make special things happen when you embrace yourself and have that confidence to become a leader.
You have that degree of leadership within you at any position.
Even though it can be difficult, tricky to look yourself in the mirror and say, oh, this is something I need to work on, the outcomes, the big vision, the picture is going to be worth its weight in gold.
I'm encouraging you to focus on those one or two things, and then guess what? Everything else, the finances, the way you feel, your vitality, your bliss, the way you show up around people, leveling up, becoming the best version of yourself, all that will lift once I'm able to focus in and improve those one or two different areas.
Start asking you questions, and that's a great indicator that you're leveling yourself up.
Once I understood, I looked at the man in the mirror and I said, you know what? I have got to work harder on myself. I've got to be able to ask myself the hard questions. Am I masking things? Am I Superman? Am I Clark Kent?
Think about what's possible for you, and over time, as we always say, you can make a difference. Why do you say the word like or cool? Why do we say so many words that are similar? And when you get around a new group of people and they use a word you've never heard of before, you're like, that's an odd word. But then weeks later, you'll find yourself saying the same word. That is influence. You've been influenced by the group that you're with. And it's such a simple breakdown of how easy it is to be led down the wrong path, the right path, or even to lead yourself within a group. How do you shift people's mindsets? How does that happen where we all start saying the same things? Who started that? Who instigated those words? I've mentioned this before, but there was a study where whoever is the commanding authority within a group, or whoever has the most loudest vibration, whether it's negative or positive, the rest of that group will adopt that within a very short period of time. I think it was within 90 seconds. If someone negative comes into a group and they start talking the way they're talking negative, the rest of the group will have the same tone. And the study also said when someone positive comes in, it will, and it's louder than the negativity, it will turn the group positive. So when we look at that, how can we use that? How can you use that listening to this? How can you use that within your own inner circle? How can you influence people for the better? Being a leader within your group, for your children, for your wife, for your husband, whatever group you're part of, your church. It's so important that we just talked about in a recent episode, leading yourself first, where you're becoming a good leader for yourself. And the reason you do that is so that you can influence the people around you. And it's the difference between a country that, like America, where everybody, to me, I'm from Scotland, everyone in America has this hope, right? This optimism, this land of opportunity. As bad as things can, you think the country is, whatever side you're on, there is always hope, is always America in here. And you can go to other countries and speak to other people from other countries, and they do not have the same hope. It's pessimism. It's a dire outlook for their future. Why is that? And it's because of the leaders at the top. But that is true within your own little inner circles. So today we're going to talk about influence, how to spiral up, how to level up and live by being a leader, not only for yourself, but for the people that are in your environment. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So when I think of leadership, one of the things that we really were not taught, I feel like obviously in school, but also even in my first two jobs, Enterprise Rent-A-Car and in State Farm, it was the pyramid. It was the titles, right? And I think it was branch manager. You had your area manager, you had your branch manager, you had your assistant manager, then you had your management trainee, which was the entry level. And when I reflect back, that's what they drove home with us is this is your title and do your job, tasks, responsibilities. And we never really talked about, I never remember my leaders within the inner circle, my bosses, supervisors talking about, hey, that's just the title, right? We don't really care about the title, but you have the leader within you. Yes, you listening to this, any position that you have is you have the leader within you to get to where you want to go in your inner circle, at your home, at your household, in your church or your community. And so I didn't understand this. And reflecting back, I realized that those were just titles or identities, Ewan, put on us. But if you're listening to this and you were born, you have that degree of leadership within you at any position. Maybe it's an entry-level position, or maybe you're a seasoned real estate investor or a business owner, entrepreneur, or maybe your customer service. I don't care what title you have the leadership within you, and you have that ability. Maybe you're not to where you want to be. For example, some leaderships that I consider traits and qualities would be accountable. Maybe you hold yourself accountable to a certain degree. I was actually having a conversation with my assistant yesterday, and I said, Janice, one of your number one strengths is that you are a problem solver. You are a deliverer. And what that means is that you hold yourself to higher standards. You hold yourself accountable. You hold your team accountable. You hold your customers accountable. And that is a leadership trait. And she looked at me with like just sparkles in her eyes. She's like, yes, that's what allows me to come alive in my inner circle with her family, with her team members. But by able to discuss these qualities, you're able to really tap into that. And when you don't have these conversations, Ewan, just like I didn't have these conversations at Enterprise, at State Farm, no podcast out there was telling me that I had leadership qualities within me. Integrity, empathy and listening, self-awareness. What were these things? They were just words tossed out. But when you have these conversations and you toss out the titles, and you listening to this, I don't care what position or what title that you hold, if you start looking at some of the qualities, go type in Google. I challenge you right now, go type in key qualities of leadership. You will see 20, 25, 30 of these different qualities in leadership. You will have one of these. And here's what I would highly recommend you do, and I challenge you to do, is to start applying one of them, one of those. I told our mastermind group last week, I said, look, what is one area that you want to level up in, that you want to dial in and focus in on? One area, one key quality that you want to get better at, you want to improve on. And we each listed one quality that we wanted to level up in. You can do that same thing. And I assure you that once you tap into that, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Watch your inner circle, watch your community, watch your business, watch your spouse, everybody else around you take notice and go, what are you doing, Ewan, and who are you hanging out with? To me, it goes beyond titles, Ewan. It goes beyond positions. We all have the leadership within us. We just have to tap into it. We have to shed the light on it. Let this be light for you right now, just like this light shining on me in the YouTube studio or the YouTube on the podcast for the light shining in my eye right now.
How did you know what leadership quality to pull from that you wanted to work on?
For me, it was overwhelmingly, once I typed in leadership qualities in Google, I got lost in a sea of what it actually looks like to be a leader. I was like, oh, I do that pretty well. Delegation. Oh, I do that pretty well. I do self-awareness. I do this okay, right? Active listening. Oh, I struggle. I struggle with this. Empathetic. And so to answer your question, what it allowed me to do is pull back the layers and go, okay, I rated myself on these different qualities. And I'm like, well, what do you do, right? Do I go just tackle 20 of them? No. How you do one thing is how you do. So I'm going to take my time because leadership is a journey. John Maxwell says this. He says he's 70 plus years of age and he still doesn't have it all figured out. So that gives me hope. You listening to this, that should give you hope. Just go compound 0.01%. I'm going to focus on one thing, and that's communication. Okay, well, what does that look like? Active listening, influence, charisma, energy, body language, body tone, articulation of words, all these different things that go into communication with leadership. But here's the thing, to really dive deep on your question, Ewan, is the reason it's communication is because you have to look at the role that you're in. So one of the things that I want you to do is what role are you in right now? So maybe you're in an entry-level job, customer service, or maybe you're in sales. Maybe you're in marketing. Maybe you're a business owner. So what role are you in right now? And what is that one category that you want to level up in leadership for your inner circle? Maybe that's becoming a better dad, a better mom. Whatever it is, focus on that one thing and just do all types of research on it, whether it's podcast, YouTube, maybe it's finding a mentor or coach where they're excelling in that area and you can kind of pick their brain, ask them some questions. but dive deep on that one key quality, and then you will build that momentum. And what I've realized is, you start building this momentum because you start working on some of the things that you've learned. And then it of course takes time, but that's how I've done it. Ewan, what about you?
Well, a little bit of an experiment for anyone listening. So I'm fairly self-aware, and the more self-aware I am, that I learn that I am, the more realize how unaware of myself that I am,
Yeah.
which is great, right? It's because we're really good at fooling ourselves, and we're really good at focusing in on what we want what we think might be right. But what if we're not? So of course you have to trust your gut and your heart, right? And so I know the areas that I want to work on and need to work on. But I've been experimenting with ChatGPT here recently, and I've put everything into this thing because I realize it understands and adapts, and it realizes and makes connections of who you are. So I've put in all my personality type, my Enneagram, my strengths and weaknesses. I put in scenarios of real life situations, how I show up. I put in my emotions, my feelings. I talk to it. And so it's getting a really good handle on me. And I'm doing this so that it can be my blind spot detector, so I can ask it questions. And so I did that. I said, I typed in, I've been doing this for quite a while now. And I typed in, I was like, of everything you know about me, what is a leadership quality that I could hone in on and start working on? And it spat back out leadership, prioritization. Yeah. And so that was that. And it's funny, because that's more or less what I've said for years. I didn't even know I was saying it, like organization, prioritization. When I think about that, I go deep on a lot of thoughts, like my ideation is a strength, my strategy is a strength. But when I think about that prioritization, I do struggle because I bring so much into my mind. There's so much to be done, and I want to do all the things all the time immediately. And so how do you prioritize that? And so I was able to get this out of ChatGPT, and I was very grateful because and here's the thing about blind spots. You already know, right? But how can you know a blind spot? Well, it's one thing knowing what it is, but to embrace that it is actually something that you need to work on. You just happen to know that that's a category, but you don't know it's the category. And so even though I know organization, prioritization is a thing, I could have told you that. I didn't realize that it was that important of what I need to work on. And so anyone listening, man, if you get a chance, type things in there. If you're okay with that, I don't got nothing to hide, just put it in there. I don't know who's reading or watching. I'm doing it for me. And I got something really good out of it. So if you're struggling, put in some personality types in there. If you don't want to do that, ask some people you trust. Me and Sean were talking about that earlier, like getting feedback as a top-notch leadership quality from people, and being big enough to handle the difficulty of hearing what you might need to work on. And so I ask somebody, and they will give you a good hint of those things you need to work on. Because why would you do this? Because when you're working on these things and you show up into your inner circle, in your group, it's going to impact them. They're going to say, you didn't used to be like that. Or what are you doing different? People will notice. They will start asking you questions. And that's a great indicator that you're leveling yourself up. And you saying empathy, just hearing you say that I've selected that communication, that just you saying it means a lot to me. Like, it just means a huge amount. Like, I don't know why that is, but just hearing it, I'm like, man, that's someone that's really working on other people. Like, because that's empathy is other people orientated. And I love that. So you've already impacted by doing that. So anyone listening, think about working on those things. And it's a beautiful place to be, even though it can be difficult, tricky to look yourself in the mirror and say, oh, this is something I need to work on. The outcomes, the big vision, the picture is going to be worth its weight in gold.
That leads me to, when you start learning this yourself and applying this in what we're talking about, the exciting thing about that, because once you learn something, if you're a student in the game and it's something that fascinates you and interests you, guess what you're going to do? You're going to share it with somebody. You're going to share it with your spouse. You're going to share it with your friend. They may or may not be excited. Who cares? You're excited about it. So what you're doing here is you're empowering others. You're empowering that friend. You're empowering that business partner, whoever it may be. And then that, to me, is paying it forward and encouraging and inspiring others to do the same thing. And that's going to only level you up, because then when you've got two people going in, or team members focused on the same principles and fundamentals of your inner circle of what you're trying to do, which is empowering others, you can run congruently together and level each other up as far as iron sharpens iron. One of my team members here recently, since he started about 7 months ago, he has PTSD in previous jobs that he's had because of the lack of poor leadership. And there's transactional leadership and there's transformational leadership. And so when he's come over, with being flexible on time off and doing things, if there's a mistake made or a task done incorrectly or a responsibility, the first thing that he says is, am I being fired? Am I being terminated? And this has created PTSD within him in the last several months. And all of his team members are like, no, man, you're fine. You're good. We're human. We make mistakes. Here's what we need to learn from them so we can apply moving forward. What are we doing in that? They're an inner circle. They're a team. The iron sharpens iron. They're empowering each other. And so from his experience, he's now learned to be a student of the game going, okay, this is a safe place. I am human. I can make mistakes, not the same mistakes over, right?
Yeah.
But learning from those mistakes. And then one of the things that he's learned is, and that we've all learned, is that focusing on empowering and correcting course is a big key ingredient for individuals that are wanting to dial in on those one or two different things that really want to lift them up. And so by being intentional about that, that allows not only yourself, but everybody around you to level up that 0.01%. And here recently, I asked one of my other team members, I said, hey, look, in our sessions, we have been focused on 15 different things. And we even talked about this before the podcast today, Ewan, on this episode. We as individuals, as leaders, you listening to this, get pulled in so many different directions. We have 10, 15, 20 different things going on. That's just in business, not to mention all these other areas of life. It is super overwhelming. It creates stress. It creates anxiety. One of the things that I've learned being a student in the game that I'm going to share with you today is that, guess what? If you take a deep breath, take a step back and reflect and go, what are one or two different things that we've talked about in today's episode that you can basically put all your time, energy, and effort into that's going to lift everything else around you up? So for example, mine, two things that all I'm focused on and obsessed about is leadership and well-being, which the pillars are nutrition, sleep, and exercise. Now, yes, there's obviously, if I put that into ChatGPT, all kind of stuff's going to be spit out. But now I know where to put my focus. So what is those two things, those two areas that you want to focus in and hone in on, those two skill sets under that category? So for me, it's leadership and communication. For well-being, it's sleep, nutrition. Because if I have my nutrition right, my sleep's on par, my recovery's on par, my well-being's feeling good versus the crap foods. And leaders eat well. But I empower you, I'm encouraging you to focus on those one or two things. And then guess what? Everything else, the finances, the way you feel, your vitality, your bliss, the way you show up around people, leveling up, becoming the best version of yourself, all that will lift once I'm able to focus in and improve those one or two different areas.
Yeah, man, it makes me, and not to put a biblical stance on it, but it's similar to when you knock on the door, seek the kingdom first, and everything else will be added unto you, right? It's a similar vein that when you focus on what is important, and by no means am I saying focus on this thing that you want versus God and the kingdom of God, but it's the same thing. You focus on those, and all the other things that you want will be handled. You don't have to stress or focus or worry on those, because those are symptoms. Those are consequences of focusing in on those priorities. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And what's interesting for you to that leadership and the food, like you said, they're really vertical. It's not even two separate things, because that wellness just leads right into making you an even more effective leader. So yeah, I mean, as far as a tip there, if you're focused on a couple things, if they go hand in hand, they're just going to enhance each other. Exactly.
Be consistent. And then most importantly, be patient, which is a weakness of mine. If I'm being completely transparent, is patience. I want it now. I want the skills now. And you listening to this, maybe thinking the same thing. Sean, delayed gratification versus instant gratification. There's two roads. Both are painful, but which one's going to get you to where you want to go? It's that long-term vision of just that incremental 0.01% of focusing in on these one or two different things, understanding that leadership is a long game. in these different areas. And that consistency and patience is the key to building that momentum and building on those small wins, which the actions and the activities, just like you listening to this podcast, stop it right now, pause it, wherever you're at, go to ChatGPT like Ewan said, or go to Google and start getting curious and asking yourself the questions, what 1 or 2 areas do I want to become obsessed with that's going to lift everything else around me that I enjoy doing? And so I encourage you to believe in your capacity to lead by being a role model for those that you care about. Leadership can be as simple as showing up with intention, inspiring others through example, and lifting each other up along the way. And so leading your inner circle isn't about grand gestures. It's about being someone to others that they can depend on and empower, learn from, and grow alongside of. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say just the importance of who you hang around with, who you listen to, and making sure that you have guards in place so that you're not being the one influenced. I tell that to my kids all the time. Make sure you're the influencer. Make sure, and if you are going to be influenced, make sure it's someone that you want to be influenced by, because you will be influenced. So it's definitely an environment. And we say that all the time with the mastermind that we have, with the community, Level Up and Live community that we're putting together. That environment is one where you plug yourself in and you become like those around you. You will be influenced. And then once you're influenced in that circle, there's more circles that you will be in. And so then you end up becoming whatever you were influenced by in the positive side of things and the leadership side and achievement and high level habits, all those things. When you go into your next circle, you take them with you. And over periods of time, you will be elevated in other people's minds. And then you can make just a wonderful impact on this time that you've got to live on this planet. Why not use that for good? We don't have a lot of time, so put it out there.
And what's going to end up happening is when you put in this work and you go down that road, which is less traveled, you're going to start noticing not only the people saying, what are you doing? What are you working on? But here's what's going to happen. Here recently, we were at church this past Sunday and we went to church service. We then went to Married Life. And then right after Married Life, we started walking out and we were walking out to our truck, and me and Kendra were walking next to each other. And we're almost to the truck and we hear, there's probably 50 to 75 people around us just walking out to their vehicles. And we hear in the distance, Mr. Myers, Mr. Myers, Mr. Myers, Mr. Myers, Mr. Myers, Mr. Myers, Mr. Myers. And it's getting closer. And I turn around and subconsciously, I'm used to students of Kendra, seeing her because Kendra's a teacher. I'm used to them saying, Miss Myers, Miss Myers. But as he got closer, he's like, Mr. Myers, Mr. Myers. And I turn around and I'm like, who's this dude following me right now? And me and Kendra turn around and there's these 3 young teenagers, early adults coming up to us with the biggest smile on their face. And I'm like, I didn't notice them. I didn't recognize them. And I said, yes, I'm Mr. Myers. And he had the biggest smile. Within 3 feet, he reached out and wanted to shake my hand. And I reached out and I shook his hand and I said, hey man, what's up? And he goes, Mr. Myers, it's Hayden. It's Hayden McDonald. It's Hayden. I was like, what's up, Hayden? And then he's like, man, this is my friend. This is my girlfriend over here. I was like, what's going on, man? And I didn't get a word in edgewise because we were just, the vibe was cool. The vibe was just high intensity and he was excited. And he goes, man, I just want to let you know that, you've really made a difference in my life, and keep up the work and keep up empowering. And it's just, man, I just love everything that you guys are doing. And I'm putting in the work as a young adult and all these, and I'm just sitting here, just bliss,
dude.
Vitality, my heart singing,
I got a smile on my face just hearing this, man.
And I walked and I said, man, Hayden, keep up the great work. Keep moving forward, brother. Thanks so much for coming up and shaking my hand and running out to me. I thought something was wrong. But listen to me. If you're listening to this, just because people don't come up and leave you a review or acknowledge you to your face or send you a direct message or send you a text message, rest assured, because of the work that you're putting in behind the scenes, it's not if, but when you are impacting people around you, not because of what you say, but because of your actions. It's caught, not taught. So keep doing you. Keep putting in the work behind the scenes. It's not if, but when you will have those moments where young adults that you're empowering and impacting and the people around you, your inner circle, will come out and start yelling your name and sharing the appreciation on the impacts that you've made in your lives.
It makes me want to go out right now and go impact someone. Beautiful, man. Thanks for sharing that story, dude. Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for listening to this. We greatly appreciate you for the time, energy, and effort. If you don't mind, share this with another friend that wants to level up, become their best version of themselves. Reach out if you're experiencing, the same, and you resonate and you connect with this message, because we're creating a community. We're creating a product and service. If you're interested in, reach out for more information. Outside of that, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave us a review. And we appreciate you. Level up and live.
Level up and live.